Talanta Hela means talent meeting or talent becoming money. That's what Talanta Hela is. And Talanta Hela is intended to, number one, create a pipeline for identifying talent. How do we identify talents? And we have created a pipeline going all the way to the school ecosystem, because the natural domicile of the youngest talents you have are to colleges. The second target for Talanta Hela is nurturing. Once you have identified these talents, then what? So we are establishing an ecosystem of how these talents can then be nurtured, processed through platforms like the Kenya Academy of Sports, the Kenya Film School, the Kenya National Theatre. Those are platforms for nurturing the talents that you have identified. And after this talent has been nurtured, then we monetize this talent. And how are we monetizing these talents? Number one, we are connecting these talents to a global audience so that you can be seen to access opportunities. Today, I have 4 boys that we've been able to funnel into elite international academies. 3 boys who are at the Nastic Soccer Academy in Tarragona. Tarragona is just about 30 kilometers out of Barcelona in Spain. They have been able to be seen and tapped by that academy. And BIST has opened the door for Kenyan talents to get into the Nastic Soccer Academy in Spain. In fact, the lead scout for that academy is landing in Kenya tonight to watch the finals of our grassroots football tournament we are calling the Talanta Hela Trophy, which is an inter-county competition for under-19 boys and girls. So, by providing the road for these boys, one of them has already been scouted by Real Madrid. They went to Madrid the other day for an exhibition program, and we have already received a report. Real Madrid wants to take a closer look at this boy. So the first effort is to showcase, place them in a shopping window, as it were, where they can be seen and they can be accessed on the biggest stage possible. The second is to attract corporate interest in that whole pipeline. Governments are good at policy, at legislation and such, but governments are not really wired to be investors in such programs. Government can create Talanta Hela, but then government must be able to get the corporate sector to drive the Talanta Hela agenda. So we are also being very deliberate in convincing the corporate world that your money can work for you if you invest in this pipeline. And so we have a lot of programs running with, if you look behind you, those of us seated here, you look right ahead of you, you can see Safaricom. Safaricom is our premier telco in this country. Actually, one of Africa's most prominent telcos. We have convinced Safaricom to put their money in that pipeline of talent development, and they're supporting a very popular program of talent development. We have supported other corporate partners like the Kenya Commercial Bank, Absa Bank, which is a continental financial institution, to start plugging in. And that is how to sustain it. That is how the EPL can sustain the kind of monies you're talking about, corporate plugins. Now, the last bit of it, which is also quite significant, is to build a strong domestic ecosystem. You know, you're not going to take all your best talents to Spain. How many can you be able to take to Spain? How many will you be able to take to France or the US or the UK? a vast majority must be grown here, back at home. And so you have to invest in a local ecosystem of talent academies. You have to develop a robust system in schools and colleges. You go to the US, below the elite NBA, the most competitive basketball level is college basketball. That is where the best talents are identified and nurtured. We must invest in our college system for the various sporting activities. We must invest in our local leagues. And I'm challenging you as African youth. That passion you have for English Premier League clubs, we want to see the same passion for African clubs, for your national team clubs. You know, you hear of an African boy hanging himself because Arsenal has lost a game. And if he comes from Nigeria, if a Nyimba has lost a game, he doesn't even register on the Richter scale. They don't even notice. The same passion you have for these foreign clubs, it is you who is giving them traction. Transfer that to our local leagues. Support our local leagues. Support our national teams. Some of you are more Brazilian than South African. You know more about the Samba boys than you know about Bafana Bafana, or Harambee Stars, or Taifa Stars, or your own national team. And so we must establish a system where our local leagues, our local competitions, our continental competitions like the Africa Cup of Nations, like the African Champions League, receive solid support on this continent. And if you do that, there are 1.4 billion of us. Our population alone is more than 3 times the population of the whole of Europe put together. It is us and our support that feeds the popularity of those leagues. If we rally around our own competitions and get enough investment there, we will be able to turn these spaces into monetary products. And you do that, you create a whole value chain. Let me conclude by telling you about the Kenyan situation with football. We were suspended by FIFA as a country from football activities in 2021, meaning that then Kenyan football was frozen out of the international arena. Now, for the casual onlooker, they will say, okay, it is all about the Harambee Stars, our national football team, not being able to play competitions like the Africa Cup of Nations. But it is more than that. There is something called football economy. The football economy includes everybody who circulates in that space. That fellow who goes to the field to mark the field, to mark the pitch, to prepare the pitch. There is a fellow who provides security to that pitch. There is a fellow who does laundry for the team. There's a fellow who drives a team bus. There is a referee. There's the team doctor, the team manager. There is a whole line of people whose livelihood is completely dependent on that single football game. And so when you plug a team out of that space, you have destroyed a whole economic ecosystem. That's how you must look at it. And by investing in that space, you're not just monetizing the player or the artist. You're monetizing many other subsidiary beneficiaries whose sustenance depends on that space. That's how big this is. And so I'm obsessed about this whole monetization agenda, and we are spreading it beyond sports. We have taken it to the creatives, to the film, theater, music industry. We are taking it to innovation so that young people who are innovating. Yesterday you listened to my president, and he was telling you about the Presidential Innovation Challenge. It is part of that Talanta Hela ecosystem. And we believe that it is this platform that can help Africa deal with the huge challenge of youth unemployment. My apologies for taking a little longer. I get a bit passionate about this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Waziri, for sharing with passion for your giving. Please go ahead, Ruben.
I think I just wanted to emphasize what Mr. Minister said around sports being really, we need to look at it from an economic way, like an economic growth engine really, than we usually do. Just for the Basketball African League, right, which is a collaboration between the NBA and FIBA. So when we do the Basketball African League, right now we've gone to 3 markets. This season we're going to go to 4 markets. And for Senegal, for example, where I'm based, we've estimated it generates about $5 million in local economy. Because when we go in, you can think about hotels we got to live in, stay in. We hire about 40 local companies really to help us run just the BL for about 2 weeks in every market. So this is the kind of impact we talk about in all the jobs that have been mentioned, right? Transportation, we need all of that. Like I said, communication, digital, content. So this is really the way, as we keep saying, that we have to look at sports in Africa and trying to build with the entire ecosystem. Then we have the same great experience with Rwanda. They are our biggest sponsor, and I think they've seen the vision and understanding and have drawn it to use really sports as this economic growth engine. We just renew our contract with the government for 5 more years. I think they've seen the benefit of it, right? It attracts tourism for Rwanda. Right now, because of the standard that we have raised, at least on the basketball size, there's a lot of events that they're hosting in Rwanda. Yeah, because people are seeing what the country has done, and it's becoming a hub for sports. And this is something we would love to see in so many countries. Right? We're going to go to South Africa this season for the first time. We're going to go back to Egypt. And our hope and goal is to really expand it to Africa. Like the minister just said, we just opened an office in Kenya about 2 weeks ago. And there are other countries who have expressed desire, Angola and others, and we would love to see this kind of effort toward Africa because, like you would say, like really, there's so much potential in Africa, not only the human capital part, but the resources. And we really need all the parties, like you said, government, private sectors, everyone. We need to build this entire system, and we have everything in the continent to be able to do that and really benefit from it. Thank you.
And just to add, I love what Waziri, for those of you who are not from Kenya, our Honorable Minister has said about the holistic approach and the systematic approach, because when we talk about the creative economy, when we talk about the sports economy, it can't just be something that you take on without a strategy. It needs a process. But the one thing I want to add is the reason entertainment can be monetized is because it is entertainment. And entertainment is directly linked to storytelling. And so the power of storytelling, the power of digital storytelling around our creative and sports economy is what we really need to tap into. The reason why people are fanatics about Arsenal, Man United, Real Madrid is because of the story of the players, because of the story of that football club. So when we look at the creative economy and we look at the sports economy and we look at everything that we're doing to put a system to revitalize and to empower, the story of the players, the story of the clubs, the story of the artists, the whole ecosystem must have a narrative. And that narrative is what will sell and monetize. Thank you.
Perhaps Perhaps before you come in, Ferdinand, because we are running into a bit of a time issue.
Okay.
With your submission, how can Africa work together? And we then do a last round with all the panelists. How can Africa work together on the creative economy and also on the sports industry? Thank you.
I think the first thing, as I was listening to the conversation, the first thing that I think is important is the type of curriculum that is producing our skill. I think for the most part, the curriculum of the 21st century is far ahead, and what most African universities are producing already outdated. So we need to integrate industry and learning. I think that intersection, so that we're not just training people and then they're looking for jobs. I'm looking for people to train because I have jobs and I need people. So I have a gap that I need to fund, but I might not carry out the cost of the training because, again, that's not my core. But if I have a training partner that can align, I know that in 6 months I can get you to a job, I can get you to a year. Now, some African countries will go to France, and it's not a problem, but if you work with a partnership in France, it's not exactly the same curriculum. In Nigeria, we had to deal with no light, had to deal with everything that was wrong. So it was hack it. The point was, anything that was not essential, a fraction of what you will spend to train people in foreign countries, you will get it training with an African country that has it. So there is an important aspect to share curriculum and to upgrade that curriculum to know what's possible. If I know Kenya has sports, like I'm learning a lot, and I think, I don't know if my country understands this the way you do. How do I get him to connect with the people in sports in Nigeria so they can learn and understand that the talents there is not just recreation or hobby. They are actually for exports, right? And they're for revenue. So we must not see entertainment and sports as hobby or recreation. It's an economic block, right? Now take, for instance, Afrobeat. Do you know, when I was growing up, for you to be a successful musician, you have to sound like a Western person. You have to rap. Guys, I don't understand what happened in the last 3-4 years. We just woke up and realized that now for you to globalize, you literally have to Africanize, not Westernize. So we're discovering a new understanding that Westernization is not necessarily development, it's not necessarily globalization. Because Afrobeat is showing it for us, but there was a problem. A lot of the foreign artists today were backed by foreign funds. So when we applaud them for being black, the economic impact is not felt because the structures that drove that development was not backed by black funds. So we need African capital for African entrepreneurs and African creative. If not, the IPs will never be your own. There's going to be that subtle neo-colonialism because your stories are bought and you're paid to do your stories. We must educate our people that stories are wealth. IPs are the new fuel, are the new economy, are the new oil. Creativity is the new oil, right? So, and that speaks to the policy side. I think policies are important because oftentimes Africans don't understand the politics of structuring policy. For me to produce something, I need to have a co-production treaties with a country in Europe. And my country does not have bilateral trade agreements, so I'm dead on arrival, right? Because if I sign that contract, they have their funding, my country is not backing me, so we're gone. We need to also work the way through, understanding the policies that can unlock it, strengthen our policies around IPs, intellectual property, copyright, educate our creatives on that. The third thing I think that is also very important to understanding the value chain, right, and that leads all the way to distribution. Reality is that a lot of African producers, whether you go to sell your content on Netflix or Amazon, once you are black, they just remove 1 0. And you understand that somebody producing from Europe or US will get something better. So we have to come like black in inside and white outside to get a good deal. But I think it's not a conversation for the creatives to have. How can the power blocks of Africa, from African Union, or people who represent the African interest, sit with some of these distributors and find a way to say, our creativity is not inferior because it's black. It's not inferior because it was produced in Africa. Creativity is a creative, wherever you find it, right? So at the end of the day, we have to be able to back the creative so that they can unlock the economy. Because if we don't negotiate the places, we don't even have distribution channel in Africa like that. So we have to go cap in hand. But if we can get our own distribution site sorted, where Africans can subscribe and back African content, you all know that the money will come back. So if we don't solve the distribution, we can only follow the value chain to a point and it drops. Right, so my submission is we need a larger conversation that can bring the concept that art and entertainment is not just, there's a business of entertainment, and we must not approach it as a hobby. We must integrate the business thinking. People train talent, they don't train the business to think with them. So the artists oftentimes don't think business. They don't know how to do decks. They don't know how to do pitch. So you have to train the people that can work with them so that it's a value chain. It's not just a linear process. It's very, very vertical to be exponential. You need to bring the ecosystem together. The writers belong, the storytellers, the animators, the producers, everybody is in the game. The directors, if you train a director and you don't train artists, it's not adding up. We need the sum of its parts to be greater than the whole.
And it's possible for us to do it together as Africans.
Yes.
Yes, please pass on the microphone. Thank you, Ferdinand.
Thank you, Grace. There's no shortcut. Africa is bleeding. The same challenges that were faced by your likes of Hugh Masekela, the same challenges that are being faced by the artists today, or even worse. So we need to build the infrastructure. We need to build proper distribution channels. Netflix is not helping. Spotify is not helping. So we basically need to build our own tools and to basically use those tools to help our artists to monetize. Those are the things that we do grassroots. We basically need to have, again, proper channel to groom youngsters and then to basically be able to monetize their talent. Thank you.
I love what my fellow speakers are saying. And just to bring the aspect of culture and tourism, Paris is one of the biggest cultural tourism destinations and have probably $1 billion industry. Within Africa, our cultural tourism is untapped. And I like what my brother is saying. Are we going to wait for other people to come and tap into this gold, into this story, or are we going to tell our own stories? So when it comes to cultural tourism, it is an industry that has a lot of potential and that can be really told by Africans with Africans for the world. And last but not least, I believe what I've been saying here is about systems. It is about storytelling, it's about talent acquisitions, it's about knowing who's in the room, it's about making sure that those people who have the talent don't have to be pushing themselves. They don't have to fight for their space, but the space is organized, it is capacity built, it is invested, it is systematic, and we have to make sure that the potential, like I said, the crisis is we don't have the capacity. The potential is huge. Let's train for the capacity. Let's have a needs assessment of what is actually in the market and ensure that we're training our youth for that market. So we don't have graduates, we don't have people who are coming out with the wrong talents, with the wrong skills for the right market. Thank you very much.
Grace, you've asked the critical question. What is to be done? What should Africa do? And that is why we are here. We are here to answer that question, not theoretically, in a very practical sense. And we should leave Nairobi really with some practical take-homes on what to be done. For me, there are three things. Number one is a mind shift. Mind shift. Africa has a, I'm telling you, good people, our biggest challenge is not resources. Our biggest challenge is not finance. Our biggest challenge is here. We have a problem. Good people, the 1.4 billion of us have a problem. And it is a mind problem. We need to shift our thinking. This obsession that the West is best. The West is not best. The West is just West. And so, you keep consuming some creative products that are of far inferior value to African products, simply because of the color of the skin of those who are creating them. Start valuing what is African. I'm not asking you not to be global. We live in a very globalized world. There's nothing absolutely wrong partaking of products from other parts of the world, but don't treat African products as inferior. Black is beautiful. Black is gold. And let us start putting value to our products. I love it that Nigerian music, for instance, is very popular here in Kenya. Hugely popular. You put on some good Nigerian music, and this whole place would go gaga. We will try it. We'll try it, Grace, with your permission, before we end this session. Let us end it with some Nigerian music. South African music, okay? Amapiano is very, very popular music form here. What I'm saying is that let us elevate these African art forms to a level where we appreciate them for the value they carry, because they carry immense value. When you look at African artists that really hit global chords, do you know the only African group that has ever won a Grammy? Grammy. Tell me one African group. There's only one that has won a Grammy. Ladysmith Black Mambazo. And those of you who may not know, go to Google or go to YouTube and check Ladysmith Black Mambazo. They did not win the Grammy mimicking Western music. They won the Grammy playing beautiful African a cappella. I love Ladysmith Black Mambazo music. One of the most popular African product that has gained global acclaim and acceptance is a song called Malaika. Many of you may have heard the song Malaika. It's a very old song. Malaika is a Kenyan song. In fact, Malaika is a Kenyan word. It means angel. First created by Fadil Williams. Now, Fadil Williams did not take Malaika to the global acclaim it has attained doing Harlem rap. No. He just used authentic Swahili lyrics and Swahili beat. The world will accept you if you're original and authentic. The world will have no choice but to accept you, to embrace you. So the first thing for me, as a continent, we need a mental shift to start appreciating the beauty of our own products. The second one is to join dots. And I like what is being said here, that together we are just formidable. Together we are absolutely formidable. You know, you go to Netflix and you go to Amazon, the traffic that drives those platforms is primarily African traffic. Dots, by combining efforts across this continent. Here in Kenya, we are signing audiovisual co-production agreements with pretty much everybody on this continent. I have one with Mozambique, with Angola, with South Africa, with Nigeria, with Rwanda. We are signing co-production agreements so that we can bring our artists together and we can coalesce our efforts around this creative industry. That is important. Instead of engaging in unproductive competition, you can be formidable combining forces. Okay? And there are some art forms like Tanzanian music, Kenyan music, which if you combine together, you can have something absolutely earth-shaking. And finally, Africa. We have to take full advantage of the digital revolution we are living today. The benefits of the digital revolution must be brought to bear on transforming our creative and sporting industry. And I agree 100%. You're never going to get maximum benefit from the Spotifys of this world, from the Amazons of this world. Africa must start creating our own spaces and rally around those spaces. Spaces that are relevant to us, spaces that are sensitive to us. Grace, we have created an app, Talanta Hela Online. If you take your phone right now and you go to Google App Store and you search Talanta Hela, you'll find the Talanta Hela app. We have created that as an app for tapping talents. So you are in Timbuktu and you want to show us how well you can dribble. Take a 1-minute clip of yourself, upload it onto the Talanta Hela app. We have a screening room at the Kenya Academy of Sport. It will be picked real time and it will be assessed real time. and you can be invited for trials, and then you can progress from there. But it's more than that. It is also a platform which we are turning into a marketplace. And I'll invite Africa. Let us turn this Talanta Hela app into our next Netflix, where we can onboard our content, where we can buy our content, where we can market our content. There is a Nigerian boy who has been talking to me. I don't know whether he's in this audience. And he's told me he has created something that can rival Amazon. I want to sit him down with my Talanta Hela tech team. And I know that you combine this Kenyan product and that Nigerian product. Hey, the rest of the world, look out. Africa is coming for you. And so let us get into that digital space, but in a manner where our numbers can be an advantage, where we can then rally around these spaces as a people, and don't be ashamed of it. Charity begins at home. And home is where for us? Africa. So let us do it. Let us build our own. Let us promote our own. Let us grow our own. Thank you.
Yeah, how do we work together in Africa collectively in the sports sector? I think on top of what everybody said, the shift of the mind, the shift of mindset of it is very important. I think, like the minister says, critical. And I think we have to set the right policies, governmental or intergovernmental policies, and we have to have the right people who are passionate about sports and who really want to do what is right for it. So to me, if we have those in place and we understand that transfer of knowledge is critical, the knowledge doesn't have to stay in Cameroon or Senegal or wherever. We will all benefit. That's what they do in Europe. That's what they do in the US. Right? We can have a conference, a summit, whatever we want to call it, and basically where other people are transferring knowledge to others. Right? We're trying to do it at a micro level with coaches and referee clinics that we have developed, and we want them to take that knowledge and go through Africa and do it. And they are currently doing that. So to me, on top of everything we said, we have to have the right policies in place. And I think if we understand that if we work together, everybody's benefit, we're all going to win as Africa. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the benefit of speaking last is that all the good things have been said. But for those of us who were in Kigali in August, when Giants of Africa was being the festival, the Giants of Africa festival was taking place, His Excellency President Paul Kagame said that we are all giants, especially as the youth. We are giants in a way we can never understand. And that gives us a bunch of responsibilities that we have to carry this continent on our backs. And part of making sure that as Africa, we keep on growing together, we keep on collaborating, there is that exchange of knowledge, skills, capital, making sure that it circulates within the continent, making sure that it benefits Rwanda, Uganda, South Africa, Egypt, that it goes everywhere. Because this is the best market that we can ever think of. With all the discussions we've had here, the product that we want to sell, the best candidates, the best clients are on this continent, and they are going to devour it. So let's work together. Let's make sure, as Ruben just said, at policy level, let's make it easier for investors. Let's make it easier for an investor from the Gambia to invest in Rwanda, from an investor from Rwanda to invest in Lesotho. Let's make it easier for our people to bring their money to their people. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I know we are going to be having very many questions, but I think we are running out of time. I will be giving this to Grace just to, just give it up for us. But what I'm hearing here is a total mind shift, and we are a formidable force. And so this is our time. Let us plug into the areas that we can be able just to make this work for us. And our governments are here to support us. We have creatives amongst us. I'm sure they are still around with us. We can be able to just converse with them as to how we can be able to go about our issues. But allow me just to give it back to Grace so that we can be able to wind this up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for ending us up on a high note. Thank you, Waziri. I'd like to recognize the presence of Honorable Minister Carlos as well, who joined us throughout the session. Thank you very much. As Honorable Minister Ababu requested, let's end this session with a dance, Nigerian music. If possible, after the Nigerian music, a bit of amapiano. And I would invite the Honorable Minister who's in the room to please come forward so we take a picture and end this session. So you're granting us 10 minutes? Okay. We'll take 2 minutes, 2 questions. Okay. 3. One question from this side, one question from this side, and then Miriam. Yes. Yes.
On a point of privilege. The reason we pay so much money to come here, so that we can engage such we're watching a YouTube channel and we go home. I'm sorry for Check 1, 2. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I'm Mogola James. The titles that we agreed, we leave them out of the door. Here, everyone is equal. Not so. To our panelists, first of all, we thank you for your time. Personally, I'm an athlete. I've been in sports since I was 3 years old. My first sport was called dodging. Your mother throws you sleep, you have to dodge. Anyone who can relate? We are all Africans, we can relate. That was the first sport I ever did, dodging from my mother's whips. Then from that, I discovered flexibility, agility, speed, and defense. And now, 18, 20 years later, I'm playing 16 sports. I've represented my country in 2 different sports. I target to represent them in 5. Good. So, first of all, I support the CS on mentality. One of the problems we face as Africans is that right now here, we are saying about how to support. But our kids at home will say, I want to play football professionally. And you will deny as a parent, I want you to be an engineer, I want you to be a lawyer. So we need to switch our mentality as Africans and support the growth. Secondly, on advice to Rwanda and any other country, Kenya is doing it right now, we have what we call CBC. And CBC has involved sports as part of the curriculum. Right now, we have a sport in Kenya called Frisbee, and another sport called Kabaddi. So you imagine in the next 10 years, the level of Frisbee in Kenya and Kabaddi in Kenya. It will be world-class level. So to the other countries, you can input it. You can put your sports into schools. It will help them grow. It will take time, but anyway, Githurai was never built in a day. Thirdly, intermarry. This is one of the biggest solutions you can do. Intermarry. At the end of the day, we're all creatives. I know some people think that an athlete playing football is not a creative. A creative is the likes of Kenya doing TikTok, okay? But this is the thing. When that player wants to pass that ball exactly to another player, that is creativity. So let us intermarry the whole package. Athletes to tourists to fashionistas. Because look at this angle. Let's say, for example, the national team. You see, check 1, 2. So this is what I think to my CS. For example, athlete national team, okay? There's no athlete who can go without music. We need music to relax. We need music to get into the mood to play. Not so. We need that fashion. We need to dress up to go to the game. Now, what about if African countries can employ our culture, our stories through national team dressing? For example, my brother, please stand up. What if, so to my people, I really pray that we change our mindsets, we push our families. And finally, finance is the solution. What about we start, like I come from Githurai, what about if there's a team? Can the businesses there be the first sponsors for those kids? Because they're our kids. If we can say 50 bob from every business within Githurai to support the academy of football or whatever, then now when it's the national team, now the government will have an easier time to do any other thing. Otherwise, thank you, be blessed, and it's a pleasure.
Issues about inclusive leadership and governance for persons with disabilities, especially the youth and student with disabilities. Bwana CS, you know, you are my role model in this space. From the time you are an MP, I've been following you. And one issue that we are grappling with, especially in supporting the issues about Paralympics and adaptive sports for persons with disabilities, especially the young people, is even financing. We are grappling with challenges because we find that in a year, if we go for any game is only one competition, we are not like admiring to get to the Olympics as any other person. That is for the especially for the Paralympics. But we can't get to qualify for these Olympics or these competitions when the issues about financing is not sorted out. It's something that we are grappling with. Another thing is about the para sports and adaptive sports. I got into the IOC with an idea that we get to the university curriculum or the university framework so that we tap into the young people. And with this, we really need your input because through the program within the IOC is that we want to open up the university space so that the young people, we use that advantage to hasten issues about provision of inclusive education and supporting disability awareness and disability inclusion within our sports, within issues about talent, because it is not just about sports. It's you to harness Talanta Hela and make it inclusive so that the young people with disabilities in this country and far and beyond can also be tapped into this because they are a critical resource that when harnessed can enable to bring the picture of inclusion from the disability lenses so that at least whenever we have the gender lens inclusion, we also have the disability lens inclusion within the Talanta Hela framework.
Thank you very much.
Asante.
Thank you. Please pass the mic to the gentleman behind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to the beautiful people behind me. we have limited time and we please of quality. I'm pretty sure it was an issue of capacity in terms of making that particular product quality. However, they were able to penetrate the market in such a very strong way, in such a way that everyone in this room knows Nigerian music, movies, music, and so much. So is it really an issue of capacity, or it's an issue of tapping into the market? And are we really going to wait for people to get capacity, or are we going to be aggressive and take what we have and tap into the markets? And please, can we ask questions and not tell stories? Thank you so much. I'm still hiding behind the minister.
Thank you. Could we move on to the other section? Take one more question.